the packet, in that envelope. I put 6, if you need more, let me know.
I'm sitting in.
Yes. Yes.
I have someone, and I'm changing location. It's gonna be across the way. This is from Buddy.
Did we spoil it for everyone?
I think we did.
The one that was
I have to make
squeezing
a
it.
motion to restore the peanuts.
I was wondering why you weren't up there with the
I'll
others
fit that into
anyway.
your farewell speech somehow. The peanuts have been going on them.
I don't know if I want to talk about that publicly or not.
Right.
Sunshine
I
laws
never
are
know I was gonna go
restrictive, so we're
either.
limited to what we can do. So we draw peanut packages and things like
That's what we
Are you staying to the end of the meeting, or are you just here for the end of the meeting? Okay, I was gonna ask you something.
Their city manager.
Can I take your phone number real quick?
But it wasn't real.
They were accused of violating sunshine law because the way they voted. Of course, you get accused, you got proof.
Yeah.
But even accusation, like you kill somebody and they'll forgive you for that. Sunshine law, you're done.
Then you're done.
Too bad. It's a homeless leadership board, I'm on that. Board.
This is good too.
You like that?
Yeah.
We learned that from the forum, that it worked. We tried that. That was the,
Safety.
Where people, and where people sit.
that was the experiment, the forum.
I have an escape route now.
Are we ready from a technology standpoint? All right, I now call to order the regular session meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, January 26, 2016 at 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Archie is absent and excused. Vice Mayor Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Tarpani.
Here.
Commissioner Banther.
Here.
Commissioner Seaver.
Here.
Before our invocation, I just want to take a quick moment to express my appreciation to the mayor. This evening, he's at a school board meeting speaking regarding the potential pool agreement between the City of Tarpon Springs and the school board. So I appreciate him being there representing the city. At this point, we'll have the invocation. Tonight's invocation will be given by Reverend Kurt Snare from St. Timothy's Lutheran Church. Please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The Lord be with you. Gracious Heavenly Lord, we thank you for all that you create and bless us with. We thank you for this beautiful place that you've allowed us to live in and be a part of here in Tarpon Springs. Help us always to be good stewards of that which you have given to us. We ask your blessing upon our leaders. May you guide them so that they may always make decisions that are best for where we are. Lord, we ask this all in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now go to public comments on items that will not be discussed this evening. Please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will be given 4 minutes. Go ahead.
My name is Suzanne Ross, and I live at 402 Innes Drive in Tarpon. And I'm going to read what I wrote because I'm very nervous about this. My husband Craig and I, have been impacted in many ways so far by the development of a large piece of property at the bayou end of Innes Drive. And I'm not sure if you know where Innes is, but it's across from Craig Park in Whitcomb Bayou. It's a big empty space right now, except for one very large home. Our backyard faces the river and our front yard the street. Our property is directly adjacent to the land where approximately 8 new homes are going to be built. One of the ways we could be impacted was mentioned to us by the developer. The developer builder recently suggested to us that the individual who purchased the lot next to us wants to put a privacy fence between our properties. Currently, there is a chain link. We have no issue with chain link as it allows some river view, good air movement, and sunlight. We really do not want on the side property line a solid fence that goes down to the water. So we came to the city to find out what the rules are and if we have any say in the kind of fence that can be constructed. We were surprised that the riverside of a lot is considered a backyard, and you can put a 6-foot fence in the backyard. We were also surprised that no mention is made about the kind of fence, solid, picket, or chain link. Part of living on the water is the openness, the view, and the wind movement, and we pay, we think, pretty hefty property taxes for that privilege. There's also an exception for a subdivision perimeter fence of an 8-foot max. I don't know the legal status of this new development, but would you really let them put an 8-foot fence in this old established neighborhood at the end of this point to separate us? We realize that Tarpon is growing and vacant lots are being built upon. We also realize that some building codes are federal state mandated, like elevations for various flood zones. But couldn't density and setbacks and riverfront setbacks be addressed? It is very disheartening to see monster homes, some 3 stories high, being built. The one home that is already constructed on the point is very large, and its footprint appears to cover a large percentage of the lot. The house sits close to the bayou. So if you put that house next to our home, which is a single-story ranch, it would block our view, stop wind flow and sunlight, and due to its length, its width, and its height. From our back porch, we'd get a river view of a 2- or 3-story concrete wall. It should be noted that our lot from the street to the river is about 200 feet, the same approximate depth of the lot next to us. From the river to our back porch is approximately 85 feet. So if a 2- or 3-story home is allowed to be built within 30 feet of the river, the backyard setback, we could have 50 feet of a 2-story home in our backyard. Is there anything that we can do to keep a home from being built 30 feet from the river, or a solid fence constructed? The lot is deep enough that it could be, a home could be set back at least a bit closer to the line with ours. We can see that there will need to be compromise for the blending of old and new. Innes Park is an old, established neighborhood with a variety of styles, but as it stands now, the riverfront is pretty open. As difficult as the task may be to blend old and new, we hope that to keep the charm of Tarpon alive and well, you would consider revisiting the codes regarding setbacks on the river, the percent of lot that can be built upon, and fencing. The decisions you make can impact the quality of many lives. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, next we'll go to proclamations. We have a proclamation for National 211 Day, and it reads, whereas every hour of every day, someone in the United States needs essential services, from basic human needs to securing adequate care for a child or aging parent. And whereas 211 is a free and easy to remember telephone number connecting people to information about critical health and human services available in their community, volunteer opportunities, and improving the way in which people learn about and connect with the services they need. And whereas 211 Tampa Bay Cares, Inc., a nonprofit organization, provides 211 services via a 24/7, 365-day call center accessible to everyone regardless of language spoken or physical ability. And whereas 211 provides confidential, judgment-free interactions with trained 211 specialists who are able to help people get to the root of their concerns and who can provide available options for health and human services assistance. And whereas 211 provides an online database of over 3,000 health and human services programs in Pinellas located on the 211 Tampa Bay Cares, Inc. website, www.211tampabay.org. And whereas 211 serves as a support system for emergency management to help disseminate critical information, assist people through disasters, and provide a long-term connection to relief and recovery services. It reads, now, therefore, I, David O. Archie, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Tarpon Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim February 11, 2016 as National 211 Day. Are there any comments on this item? Next, we can move into our consent agenda. We have satisfaction and release of liens, Special events, A, Autos for Autism, March 12, 2016. Greek Independence Day Parade, Sunset Beach Concert Series, car shows for charity, breast cancer car show. Award bid number 160049-B-JJ, North Parcel Stormwater Improvements. Authorize execution of school resource officer contract with the Pinellas County School Board. Approve name change, the Dumont Company, bid number 150090-B-RS to Hawkins, Inc. for chemicals for the reverse osmosis water plant. And finally, increase file number 140022-C-CM, lighting, street installation, repair, and maintenance. Are there any items that anyone would like pulled or discussed? Seeing none, I'll open for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So moved. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes. Next, we have our special consent agenda. The next item is to award bid number 160043-B-JJ, Tarpon Springs Fire Station number 71.
Jay Jackus, Chief Procurement Officer. Again, this item is on special consent due to the price of the project. We received 3 bids on the project, and we're recommending approval to the low bidder. I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Terrapini?
My question's for you, Mr. LaForest. I originally thought that this fire station was going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 million or $1.6 million. Why am I surprised by
The
the
number was
2.7?
about 2.4. I think it was the funds they were coming from. I think with the different funds from the one fund, because these are coming from several different funds that we have. So it's really a little more than the 2.4 we thought, but we've been able to account for that from the fire impact fees, a little more of that, and we've been able to account for that.
The 2.7's inclusive of the design? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Are there any public comments on this item? The chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes. Next, we have item number 9, proposed settlement of administrative fine, Relene, 711 Bayou Avenue, code enforcement case number 05-800000842.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Commissioners, you received my report on this property. This application concerns the property located at 623 East Tarpon Avenue. There's a code enforcement lien emanating from a violation that started in 2005 and that was resolved in compliance in 2008. This is not one of your standard bank foreclosures where the property just went into non-compliance. This was a property owner with some significant health issues that ultimately caused the violations. They were brought into compliance when they could be. My recommendation, based on the facts and circumstances of this case, is to accept the offered amount of $2,000, which was offered by Mr. Kouskoudas on behalf of the property owner, on a total fine of $4,563.49. I also do recommend that we settle it to include our administrative costs, so bringing the total settlement to $2,575. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I do have one comment. 623 East Tarpon is my office building.
I apologize.
I hope I don't have any code violations.
It's
I don't know
711
about-
Bayou Avenue.
Okay.
Are there any other public comments at this time? Are there any commission questions?
Move to approve for $2,575.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 10 is to authorize execution of license agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of the Suncoast for basketball courts.
in our efforts for increased recreation, and if any of you drove by the basketball court on Gulf Road and see its extensive use, we were able to get an agreement to restore it. Most of you remember the old basketball courts that used to be at the Boys and Girls Club. Obviously, within the facility in the back, they built an outdoor one with a tent, but that restricted access to the neighborhood and people going there doing that, because obviously you can't get in the fence after hours. So this is a very low price agreement with them for us to put the basketball courts and restore that, to give an additional place for the public to go play. And again, the Gulf Road one is being used, even sometimes going home for meetings at 9:30 with the one little light, they're out there using that court. So we certainly need more of those, and we thank the Boys and Girls Club for working and allowing us to restore those courts and have another location for our citizens. And you're approving the agreement with them to do that. Again, the cost is minimal from our recreation money. It's minimal cost. Just in essence, the goals.
Are there any questions for staff? Are there any public comments on this item? Chair will open for a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes. Next, we have agenda items 11A, 11B, and 11C. 11A and 11B are both legislative. 11C is quasi-judicial. These items are going to be discussed together, but they will be voted on separately. At this point, if the city attorney would please discuss the quasi-judicial procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also note that items number 12 and 13 on our agenda tonight are quasi-judicial. I see Mr. Kokolakis in the audience. If you do plan to testify tonight, I'd ask you to please pay attention to the quasi-judicial announcement, please. In a quasi-judicial proceeding, the commission acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At such a hearing, it is not the commission's functions to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In such a hearing, the commission is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings to previously established criteria contained in the code in order to make a legal decision regarding the application. The commission may only consider evidence that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If that evidence demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established by the code, then the commission is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if that evidence demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria, then the commission is required by law to find against the applicant. All witnesses must give their testimony under oath. All persons testifying must give their name and address for the record. All testimony and questioning must address matters that are relevant and material to the issues under consideration. The city staff will present its testimony and evidence first. The applicant will then have the opportunity to cross-examine city staff. The applicant will present its testimony and witnesses, and city staff will have an opportunity to cross-examine the applicant's witnesses. Members of the public opposing the application will be given an opportunity to present testimony after all members of the public speaking in opposition to the application have concluded. Members of the public in support of the application will have the opportunity to speak. Each member of the public is limited to 4 minutes of testimony. The applicant may then make a closing argument or summary, after which city staff may make a closing argument or summary. Following this, the commission will consider the matter. Commissioners may ask questions of witnesses. A motion will be made and a vote will be taken. At this juncture, as to item 11, A, B, and C, I'd ask if there are any ex parte communications on behalf of the commission. Seeing none, I'd ask for all witnesses who plan to testify on all these quasi-judicial hearings tonight to please stand and be sworn so we can do the swearing at one time. Do you swear from the testimony you'll give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
At this juncture, we'll move to the staff presentation on the Tarpon Turtle item.
Thank you, Jay. This essentially will be 2 applications that we're actually going through, but it's a 3-part approval process here, just so everyone's aware of that. The first piece that I would speak to is application 1579, which is the restrictive covenant that Tarpon Turtle had agreed to put on the property to restrict the pieces of property that they're asking for the future land use change and the zoning amendment on. And essentially, what I've prepared for you in the staff analysis here is just some background information on the history of this project. We're now at second reading for the future land use amendment and the rezoning, and as such, this is the time under which we need to actually take forward this covenant and actually look at it and make a decision either way if this is sufficient for what we're looking for to restrict that use down to the parking lot to support the Tarpon Turtle. So essentially, this application went forward to the county after your first reading. The PPC agreed to the countywide amendment based on this restrictive covenant. They feel that they allowed for that countywide plan amendment because the local community was looking to this restrictive covenant to further tighten down what use can actually be put on that property. So essentially, what's occurred here is the first step in the process is to approve this restrictive covenant language as it's presented here. The city attorney and myself have worked with the applicant on this particular language. We are confident that it provides the restrictions that you're asking for the applicant for that property to be restricted down to supplemental parking. With that, we're recommending approval of that portion of the application. And so if we could just have a little, if anybody has any questions specifically to the restrictive covenant, I can answer those at this time.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Siebert?
I had one question. Looking at the declaration number 5 on the restrictive covenant, the city obviously has the beneficial interest, and no modifications or amendments can be made without the applicant coming back to the city. Then I looked at the Penrose Planning Council approved this ordinance, and then has an amendment in section 2 recommending that this proposed amendment also include retail and services. Now, I understand that before they can do anything, they still have to come back in front of the board to get anything approved.
That would
I
be
was just curious why that was included.
That would be basically what we asked for from the county was for them to amend that county-wide land use plan that our plan has to be consistent with. The categories that have shrunk since the plan was amended earlier this year. As a result, that is the most appropriate category based on the particular land use category that we're proposing for this parking area and for the rezoning. And as such, that's the category that they have to do. They're bound by the same mechanism that we had where we could not put a condition on the straight amendment. That's why we needed to go through the restrictive covenant process. So they asked staff specifically that question because we had sent the restrictive covenant language so that they were aware that that was what the board had requested the applicant to provide. So they are aware that that's going forward, but it would be the same thing. The restrictive covenant is a local condition, so we basically, as a board, you regulate that restrictive covenant. But you still, under the countywide land use plan, will have that land use district that allows the retail and services, just as they will on our plan, have the limited commercial land use designation and the waterfront development district land use district zoning. And as such, any of those types of uses that we talked about during first reading can go there, with the exception of you're now restricting it down. So they have to come back to you, and then obviously, since they base their decision on this restrictive covenant, they're going to want to hear from staff as to what's being proposed on that property. So that will have to be an open dialogue between the staff here and PPC if the applicant does come back to try to amend this restrictive covenant.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that language because the parking lot's going in, so I just wanted to be sure about that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Since we're doing 11A, 11B, and 11C together, do you have any further staff presentation regarding these
No,
items?
and not unless you have any questions, because the only thing that's changed since your first reading is that PPC decision has been rendered, and now basically the countywide plan is going to be consistent with the land uses that we're proposing tonight.
Are there any further questions for staff? Would the applicant like to make a presentation at this time?
Mr. Vice Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Todd Pressman, 334 East Lake Road, number 102 in Palm Harbor, Florida. I'll keep this short. I want to make you all aware that since the board voted unanimously for this request when we were here last, It then went to the Pinellas County Planners Group, who formally take a vote on it and supported it. It then went to the Pinellas Planning Council, who took a vote on it, as my memory, that was unanimous. Then it went to the Countywide Planning Authority, which is the Board of County Commissioners. That vote was unanimous. So it's coming back to you today. We're always very happy to work with the staff, which we did on the restrictive covenant. That was the one item really everyone wanted to have put in place. So that's extremely clear and very restrictive as to what the use is going to be there. So again, we're happy to work with the staff. Heather's been great to work with, and the rest of the staff as well, and we're prepared to move forward. And we've had just a long list of approvals. I think it's actually 3 by this group itself. Thank you, sir. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, are there any members of the public wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Are there any members of the public wishing to speak in support of the application? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Does anybody wish to make a closing summary, just while we get that on the record? For purpose of the commission, we'll first take a motion and a vote on 11A, which is the restrictive covenant. We'll move to 11B and C. We need to read the ordinances before we vote on those. So let's do application A 1579 first.
Move to approve application 15-79, 11A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther,
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Ordinance 25-17, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the future land use map for approximately .827 acres, 36,031 square feet of property located on the south side of Lake Tarpon Avenue, adjacent to 1513 Lake Tarpon Avenue, from RM Residential Medium to CL Commercial Limited, providing for findings and providing an effective date. That's a second reading of ordinance 2015-17 by title only. The ordinance was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title with a map on January 8, 2016.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
And item 11C is ordinance 2015-16, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, for approximately .827 acres, 36,031 square feet of property located on the south side of Lake Tarpon Avenue, adjacent to 1513 Lake Tarpon Avenue, app 15-47, from RM15 residential multifamily to WDI waterfront development, providing for findings and providing an effective date. That's a second reading of ordinance 2015-16 by title only. It was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only with a map on January 8, 2016.
Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Vice Mayor, City Manager, City Attorney, I do want to let you know that Terry is here, the owner of Tarpon Turtle, and we want to thank you for your hard work and Heather's hard work. And if there's any discussion for any kind of issues in the future, we're happy to work with you and happy to be part of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 12, Resolution 2016-04, Application 15-113, which is the site plan for Eco Village, which again is quasi-judicial.
Heather, you're going to present these together, right?
That makes sense.
So let me read the resolutions first, and we'll do the presentation. Resolution number 2016-04, resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, approving application number 15-113 for site plan approval for 12-unit Eco-Village project in the T4A district located at 0 Orange Street, 119 and 129 North Ring Avenue, providing for findings, providing for conditions, and providing an effective date. It's resolution 2016-04 by title only. As to the conditional use, we have resolution 2016-01, a resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, approving application number 15-117, requesting a conditional use to allow construction of a 2-unit attached single-family dwelling on property located at 207 East Center Street in the conditional residential mixed zoning district, CRM-7.5, providing for findings, providing for conditions, and providing for an effective dates, Resolution 2016-01 by title only.
Thank you. Essentially, this application is two separate applications. However, they are completely connected because it's one project. Essentially, what's been required of the applicant is, because there are two different zoning districts here, one zoning district goes in the special area plan that allows for types of mixed-use development and those type of things, and these townhome buildings are on allowed use, as well as in the adjacent property, they're asking for attached housing, and that is a conditional residential mixed district, and it requires for attached homes approval of, and answering the question, is it a compatible use? So basically, that's why we're going to hear them together, because it's one unified project, just two different issues and two different applications in order to approve that project. So essentially, this project is for, this site plan approval is for the Eco Village project. The applicant is Joe Kokolakis. The owner of the property is the Ring Avenue LLC, and their request is to construct two 6-unit townhomes on the Eco Village site, the main site between Orange and Center, and then on the corner of Ring and Center Street, they're going to have a 2-unit building, which are basically an attached home of 2 units that will require that conditional use. So that being the case, just to give you a little bit of background on this particular project. This project is located in the historic district. It was previously developed with single-family housing. Heritage Preservation Board, on December 2014, the applicant requested removal of 2 historic homes on that property so that he could develop this new residential community. During that particular approval process, the HPB board determined that they would allow the demolition of the larger home, of the 2-story home, but that they wanted, the caveat was that the applicant would have to try to sell that home to somebody else in the district where it could be relocated in the district. So the applicant went about trying to do that. In the meantime, they allowed the second home to be moved somewhere else in the district. The applicant subsequently bought a lot across the street from the Eco Village site, and that bungalow was moved earlier this year to that particular location. It's currently in the process of being renovated. All of the renovations at this point have been approved by HPB. The home was finally allowed to be demolished after the applicant did, in good faith effort, try to sell that home for a number of months. The whole time I was here, the sign was up there. So that being the case, HEB did agree to allow that demolition to go forward based on the applicant's effort. The applicant also did seek approval for the project, the larger project for the new residential homes. They had some concerns with the size and the massing and scale, but we worked through some of those issues with HPB. However, they did have some concerns on the additional lot on the corner of Ring and Center, that what had been proposed there really wasn't consistent with the way homes have been developed in the historic district. As you know, that most homes in this area are rear-loaded homes. They're loaded off of an alleyway. It's only been since the 1950s, really, when cars became inexpensive to purchase, that you see driveways in the front of houses. Historically, the pattern has always been rear-loaded homes if there was a driveway at all. That being the case, the HDV board asked the applicant to come back with a new design. The applicant subsequently reduced the number of units by 1. They are allowed to do the 3-unit single homes that they were looking to do there. However, they reduced it by 1. They attached them, and they created a single driveway off of Center Street that is now the garages are rear-loaded on that property. So it's actually very consistent. It's just a very smaller version, a scaled-down version of what's going to be approved on the adjacent property, because those are all rear-loaded garages. Now, the difference between the Eco Village project is they have detached garages versus an attached garage, but you know, the basis for the approval is there. So HEB did allow for this project to move forward. They asked for a variance from the BOA regarding a buffer adjacent to the existing, at the time, right-of-way that, since this board has vacated, that is adjacent to the Kokolakis construction office. and that was approved, and they were allowed to put in a fence there. That fence will have to be consistent with the HPP guidelines. What's currently shown on the plan is a vinyl fence that won't meet the guidelines, so the applicant is aware of that, and we've conditioned this approval on that basis. That being the case, we're asking, due to the process, this extraordinary process that the applicant has gone through, that, and had to make several concessions, being in this project being in a significantly historic district, that due to the location of some of these issues, that they actually be awarded development-related fee credits in the amount not to exceed $25,000. And that's basically because of what has happened as a result of trying to move this project through and make it a viable project. This is a very small infill project, and the overhead for that project, with only this many units, we've actually asked one to be reduced, makes it very difficult to make this a marketable project. And the applicant has worked really hard with the city staff to make this a good project, and this is an excellent project. So staff is recommending approval of that. We can answer any questions, but I would like to read the conditions of approval into the record, because there are a number of conditions. Planning board heard this last night, and they had nothing but great things to say about both of these applications. They praised the applicant for bringing this type of development here to the district, and they were very pleased with the product that we had received. So at this point, I'll read, we are recommending approval. The planning board recommended approval to you, and these are the conditions that we're placing on the project. The developer is responsible for acquiring all other jurisdictional permits or approvals and for meeting the minimum criteria of the Land Development Code, including compliance with the Public Art Program. The project is subject to a transfer of development rights agreement between 202 East Center Street, which is the center site, that is actually the office development site, and the Eco Village project as described in Exhibit A, which is the receiving site of Resolution 2016-04, and all required deeds and agreements must be recorded within 90 days of the site plan approval. The applicant must mitigate for tree removal at the time of permitting pursuant to LDC Section 133.06. All fencing shown on the site plan must be consistent with the fences and walls section of the National Registry of Local Historic District Design Review Guideline Manual. Any lighting to be installed on site is to be shielded and direct internal to the site. The site plan as conditioned demonstrates that the required facilities and services will be available at the prescribed level of service standards concurrent with the impact of the development and may be subject to Section 3 of Resolution 2016-04. During the term of the site plan approval, will receive a certificate of concurrency pursuant to Section 12200. Construction plans shall be consistent with the approved site plan. The payment of all requisite fees attendant to the project shall be paid in accordance with the Land Development Code, and the site plan shall expire within 1 year of the effective date unless the applicant has filed for a building permit with construction plans signed and sealed by a registered engineer licensed in the state of Florida. And we also have conditions for the conditional use. Staff is recommending approval of that application as well. It is deemed consistent, being by virtue of the neighborhood that it's in alone. It is a compatible use. You have a multitude of uses in this neighborhood, going from multifamily projects to institutional uses. This is a very diverse neighborhood. So being the fact that we recommend approval of the site plan with adjacent multifamily, this project for the attached homes is a consistent use within the neighborhood. So staff will read those conditions into the record for the conditional use. The developer is responsible for acquiring all other jurisdictional permits or approvals and for meeting the minimum criteria of the Land Development Code. The applicant must mitigate for tree removal at the time of permitting pursuant to LDC Section 133.06. Any lighting to be installed on site is to be shielded and directed internal to the site. The site plan as conditioned demonstrated that required facilities and services will be available at the prescribed level of service standards concurrent with the impact of development, and may during the term of the site plan approval receive a concurrency certificate pursuant to Section 12200. Construction plans shall be consistent with the approved site plan. The payment of all requisite fees attendant to the project shall be paid in accordance with the Land Development Code. The site plan shall expire within 1 year of the effective date unless the application has been filed for a building permit with construction plans signed and sealed by a registered engineer licensed in the state of Florida. If you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Kokolakis and also staff for the hours and years on your behalf, Mr. Kokolakis, that you put into this. I know in the 5 years that I've sat up here, we've approved a lot of projects, and I've never seen a project require this much layers of approval with the various different boards. So thank you for sticking with it. Thanks for making the investment in the town, and we look forward to your next project. So thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Siebert.
I just want to ditto that. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to see this project and an urban development like this in our historic district. And I appreciate the concessions you made and definitely believe that you deserve something back for that. So thank you, and I can't wait to see it completed.
Same here. And I am looking forward to see how it becomes a zero energy use home as far as the power goes. If that's successful, I think that could be a good example for future projects here.
At the risk of sounding redundant, I'd also like to thank the applicant for everything that's gone into this application, as well as staff. I know when you're dealing with the historic district, it's obviously important that we get it right, but that doesn't make it easy, and that's very much appreciated. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
I was here last night. Joe Kokolakis, Buena Vista Drive, Dunedin. And again, I was here last night with planning and zoning, and at the risk of making it sound like a love fest, I know it's been a long journey, but I want to thank the commission for having the vision to initiate the special area plan, because ultimately that's where all this started, and for giving staff the resources to execute that plan. Karen Lemons and Heather have been tremendous in kind of sometimes dragging this project through the process. And if it weren't for them, it probably would have stalled a long time ago. So I'm just grateful to you all, and I'm also looking forward to getting started. So thank you. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Any public comments at this time? Either in support or opposition to the project? Seeing none, I guess we will open for a motion, which this would be, where are we?
Resolution 2016-04, that's item 12 on your agenda.
Move approval, resolution 2016-04.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Siebert?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes. And then we need a vote on item number 13, which is resolution 2016-01, application 15-117.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Siebert?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes. As I look at our agenda, I realize that at the beginning of the meeting, I neglected to make an announcement. Item number 14 has been withdrawn by city staff on behalf of the applicant. I really hope nobody was sitting here patiently waiting for item number 14. If so, I apologize. Next, we have under miscellaneous, item number 15, and this is to affirm members of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. This one is probably pretty straightforward. We basically need to reappoint the membership as listed. Are there any public comments on this item, first of all? Seeing none, I'll open the floor for a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought Commissioner Siebert, no? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Siebert?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes. And that concludes our agenda for the evening. Are there any staff comments? Chief?
No comments, Vice Mayor.
Our city attorney?
No, sir.
City manager?
No, again, I guess we'll be finishing this meeting before the mayor finishes with the school board meeting, but again,
We could drag it out so he could come to both.
No, that's all right. So hopefully we'll have a successful time down there and we can get going on the pool project.
Madam Clerk? Commissioner Siebert, any comments?
No comments. Great job, Vice Mayor Larson.
Thank you. Commissioner Terrapini?
Yeah, I would just say that if former Commissioner Slattery was sitting up here, we'd have had a bet on the time, and my bet would have been about 10 o'clock tonight is when we would have adjourned. So we need you back, so you may. That's all I got.
Thank you. Commissioner Banther.
We did bet on the time.
Oh, did you?
We do every time.
We said 1 hour, 1 hour.
Really?
Would be over, yeah. So we're about, 45 minutes to go, that's it.
I guess that concludes our meeting. We will adjourn at 7:13. Thank you. And well done.
I can almost get to WWE SmackDown. I went to
Sign all these
Good job, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I tell you, it's different.
Oh, well, you gotta
be focused.
You gotta pay attention.
Well, I always pay attention.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Are you coming? Good. I'm having one tomorrow. It's her official birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, you're on that for a second. It is different.
I'm doing an ice cream cake tomorrow, and then I'm ordering a sheet cake for Saturday, and then the tavern is doing the food for Saturday.
I think we're trying to create whatever we can, I'm sure.
That's on TV, it'll be on Bacon.
Well, I think they have 2 on the side. They have, so you go either way.
Absolutely. Thank you.